Hi everybody, welcome to Sophie's Tales channel. Make yourself as comfortable as you can and leave your worries and stress behind. This time is to relax. Take breaths and feel the tension leave your body. Close your eyes and dream the story I'm about to tell you. An adaptation of a classic novel about an adventure around the world. Around the world in 80 days. Once, at a club in England, Mr. Fogg put a bet with his friends that he could travel around the world in 80 days. Joseph Kane said, "Impossible. You can't go around the world in just 80 days. Mr. Fogg replied, "Let us bet, gentlemen, for £20,000. His friends accepted it. Mr. Fogg was always correct in his calculations for the world map. His bet was published in the newspapers of England. In the meantime, there was a major bank robbery. The police got a sketch made by eyewitnesses and the description matched that of Mr. Fogg. Mr. Fix appointed to catch the robber. Mr. Fogg, along with his newly appointed servant Passepartout, set out from his home with a bag of clothes. They arrived at the station where Mr. Fix saw Mr. Fogg and assumed he was the culprit. Mr. Fogg had already planned the trip in advance. He and his servant boarded the train and then a steamer to reach their first stop, Suez. It took 7 days to get there. Mr. Fix followed them. Mr. Fogg and his servant left for Bombay in a steamer. It took them 13 days to get there. During the journey, Mr. Fix spoke to Mr. Fogg. Mr. Fogg remembered that he had seen him before. Soon they reached their destination. There, Mr. Fogg, Passepartout and Mr. Fix, who was following them, went to stay at a hotel. The next day, they boarded a train to Calcutta, but the train stopped and they then traveled on an elephant to get there. On the way, they saw the Queen, who needed help. Mr. Fogg decided to help her. He and his fellow travelers rescued the Queen and took her with them. Mr. Fogg asked the Queen if she wanted to travel with them, and the Queen agreed. They all reached their destination and stayed in one hotel. Mr. Fogg booked another room for the Queen and stayed there safely. The Queen loved Mr. Fogg. He told her about his bet, saying, "I have bet with my friends to travel around the world in 80 days, so I must travel a lot." The Queen said, "No problem, I will travel with you." So she accompanied them on their journey. After 16 days, they arrived in Hong Kong. Mr. Fix was still following them. Mr. Fogg had noticed Fix following them everywhere, but ignored him. From Hong Kong, they headed to Japan. From Japan, they headed to San Francisco. 28 days had passed by now, and Mr. Fix was tired of following Mr. Fogg in San Francisco. Mr. Fogg asked Fix, "What are you doing, sir? "Are you following me from London to here?" Fix replied, It's just a coincidence, sir." Mr. Fogg ignored him and moved on to his next destination. On their way, their train was attacked. They attacked the passengers with bows and arrows. Mr. Fogg was injured, but managed to save himself and the Queen. After that, they headed to the next destination, but the gentleman then managed to stop a gentleman before he left there. The police arrested Mr. Fogg. He was brought to court, where he was found not guilty. He did not have done no robbery. But Mr. Fix then managed to stop Mr. Fogg before he left there. The police arrested him. He was brought to court, where he was found not guilty. He did no robbery. There was no proof, so he was released. The trip from New York to London took 16 days. They got home, but Mr. Fogg realized he hadn't considered the time zones and was a day late. He asked Passepartout, and he replied, "It's Saturday, Mr. Fogg. You won the bet." Upon hearing this, Mr. Fogg smiled at his victory. He went to the club, and his friends were surprised that he arrived on time. So they paid Mr. Fogg the bet. Mr. Fix also learned that the robber had been arrested the same day he started following Mr. Fogg. Mr. Fogg married the Queen and became famous in the country.